卷毛的表现真的特别出色。
对，
哎，是不是现在龙一死就这个动画？
对，第一条小龙妹。
Excellent. I'm your host, Roscoe, and I'm here with my panelists. I got Raz, Esportspedia, Kelsey Moser, LOL Esports, On Gamers, I don't know what else.
Something.
Announcements?
No, this channel, I guess.
Yeah, on Gamers. And then we have DreXx representing Esports Heaven. So, panelists, we had, 24 games of LPL this weekend?
Every week's a super week. Yay!
Yeah, let's just take a moment right there. The largest league in the world, 12 teams. 8 games a day, 3 days, 24 games a weekend.
Yep.
Each game is roughly, 40 minutes, some of them a little bit longer. That's like 24 hours of League of Legends.
Sometimes more with delays. It's pretty intense.
Oh yeah, delays are really fun. So
yesterday. And I have watched every single game, like a good little LPL student.
Yay.
Yay!
Yay!
Everyone else is like, good for you.
I cherry picked a little bit in there.
Yeah, man, it's rough. It's a lot of commitment. Like first we had to research Koreans, and now they're like throwing double the games at us. Like, what is going on? This is ridiculous.
I know, right? And then there's those teams that came from LSPL, because what the fuck is that? Let's talk about... I don't even know where I want to start. It's just like so massive.
There's much to talk about. Jeez.
Oh my god. Let's talk about the broadcast actually. Normally we don't talk about the broadcast. We kind of like leave it alone, and I think partly that was because we were running it. But I just wanted to take a few moments to kind of say something about the broadcast that is now being run by Riot. It's broadcast from Australia. The casters are Tiberi, Atlas, and Papa Smithy, and Pastry Time. Yes, 4 of them. Mm-hmm. 2 play-by-play casters. And I just want to kind of say like a couple of things, because I think the stream on Reddit has gotten a ton of hate. But I just want to like clarify, just as a former LPL caster watching the stream, I don't think the hate should be directed at the casters. Obviously, there were some scheduling issues where the Oceanic League took precedence over the LPL League, and things were getting cut off, and VODs are hard to find, and all of that, which, yeah, that's a scheduling nightmare. There is some criticism there. Riot seems to have been very receptive to it. We had Rioters in that thread, responding to people and saying that clarifications will be coming, and they ended up fixing the whole OGN thing where they didn't cut off OGN in the middle of LPL or cut off LPL in the middle of OGN, and they now have the 2 different separate streams, Riot Games and Riot Games 2. But the casters specifically, Atlas, Tiberi, Papa Smithy, and Pastry Time, that's 24 fucking games to cast.
Yeah.
That's insane. So, props to them. They toughed it out. They made it, even though, we only had some of those games. It's fine.
I had to cast Oceania also, okay? That's a lot of games.
I know, how they had to go from fucking like a world-class region to Oceania, like that takes balls. How do you even make that transition? You're like,
yeah, exactly. So much excitement. It's just like Oceania, what the heck? But yeah, I mean, sure, there's problems with the broadcast itself from time to time, but yeah, you definitely have to give props to the casters. Like, they're just doing their jobs, and they're doing a lot of it, so...
And
technical difficulties are never the caster's fault, ever. And it makes their life 10 million times harder. If the stream doesn't, if the Chinese broadcast isn't responding to you, which there are delays notoriously in the Chinese broadcast, if the TR client that they're using has some issues, if it lags out, the casters, that's the feed that they're getting, and they just have to roll with the punches. So blaming them for technical difficulties is not ever worth it.
Yeah, and they were really high in quality in the sense that they rolled with the punches. Anytime something came up, they knocked it out of the park, I think. So it was... there were times when I was popping between 2 of the streams, the English broadcasting and the Chinese broadcasting, and I'd like to say there was quite a large difference in the Chinese broadcasting as well. The quality was definitely up. And I like that fact too.
Oh my god, the venue is just beautiful.
The stage is amazing.
Yeah.
The venue is a cross between like a casino and a pinball machine. And PLU got a lot of new sponsors this year, and they're really trying to leverage that and up the production value. So that's kind of cool to see.
But this with that comes my big criticism of the stream. Because obviously I'm not just going to sit here and be like, oh, it was fantastic, you guys did amazing.
I was about to label a sponsored by this show episode, or this episode sponsored by Riot Games label on it, but now we're going to go to
Riot Games.
Okay.
No, criticism. They have to use the arena. I cannot believe that they're using 0 live footage from the Chinese arena. We're not getting any of the players. We're not getting any of the intros. We're not getting any of the actual like venue, the crowd, the flavor of the Chinese cast. And I think that's a real shame, just because of how high the production value is. Because right now, effectively, we have a hold screen and a schedule. We have a shot at the casters, and then we have the TR tournament into the games. And that's the 3 scenes that we have. And I think that they could very easily work in some shots of the crowd and the venue, and especially the players, like seeing those players' faces, seeing them introduced, giving a little bit more structure to the cast as well, because you can tell that they're, you know, oh, is the Chinese cast, oh, they're going? No, they're not going. Okay, another pause. Okay, are they going? No, they're not going. And like the on the Chinese stream, they do like this full thing where, you know, the player's picture comes up and it gives you like their KDA and it says something about that. And I think it would give a lot more structure and a lot more flow to the cast. So that's my big criticism, is that I personally believe that they should be using footage.
Yeah, which really goes back to the fact that the Chinese stream, now that like the production value, of course, is there's a lot more value to it, and on top of that, the interviews that are being shown out, the content that are coming out, there's so much to use, especially on the English stream when there's not much going on. You know, they're just trying to buy time during the pauses, or even like in between games that they're throwing up the schedule on. They could really be showing some of that. So it's a good point. Yeah.
Kelsey, DreXx, anything else we want to say about the broadcast?
I mean, I mostly agree on that point, just because, like, yeah, it's great that more people are getting, or that LPL is visible to more Western people, but a large part of that is forming a connection with those players, which just does not exist when you're only really panning at a desk with 2 casters and then the games. Even the people that people are already familiar with, like, you know, Dade and all the superstars from Korea, like, it's, I don't know. The bond is just not like complete, I guess you could say.
You missed some of the really cool moments, like when when Edward Gaming was shaking Vici Gaming's hands at the end, and Pon's like smile got really big when he shook Dandy's and Mada's hands. He's like, yeah, you know.
You're just missing some of those moments where Zatai used to stand up from his desk and like walk over to Youngsu's desk and like physically do champion select for him.
And then some of my favorites is when like OMG would lose a game, Loveling would just be like thinking, and his eyes would be cast over, and then so like IG, I think once when they won, like PDD like literally like punched him in the back. He was like, bitch, shake my hand. And when you talk to those players, that's what they'll say. Like sometimes they're not paying attention. You have to like hit them in the back.
Yeah.
And plus now we have a like, for all purposes and uses, Uzi breaking keyboard gif. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And they literally ripped off that OGN intro where Faker's in the chair for Edward Gaming, like frame for frame.
See,
it's amazing.
It's great, but why Mouse? Like, I wanted to know why Mouse and all people. People would not bitch as much if it wasn't fucking Mouse in the throne. Like, what? Anyway, it's all great.
Clear Love, just because of the like ancestry. Obviously, people would not want it to be Clear Love, but
they don't want it to be Mouse either. Like, people aren't even familiarized with him yet, so I don't know. It's funny, but it's good stuff.
By the way, Dandy's not even in the Vici one, which is kind of like, oh, it's really?
In their LPL like generalized one, they only have like 8 players, and they like handpick them from certain teams. They've got like 2 Vici guys. I think one of them's Vasilii. They've got some World Elite guys, but like not even the whole like player spectrum is represented. They don't even have a single person from every single team. It's a little weird.
I have to wonder how many keyboards, like how many shots did they take before they got that one? In the background.
I was kind of hoping, I was like looking back at it, just hoping that when he like smashed the keyboard, the 3 keys of the keyboard coming out would be like OMG. I'd be like, oh. But no. It was
Starhorn Royal Club.
Starhorn.
My favorites have to be the OMG and LGD ones. The LGD ones, because I don't know what they said to Wayless and Flame beforehand, but they look like serial killers. They like zoom in on their faces.
Yeah.
And then the OMG ones, they have the most ridiculous shots. Like Cool is like playing baseball while jumping in the air, and
Leveling is like kicking things.
And then UZI is running with like this really blank facial expression while
The run was so
players
awkward, man.
jump
Oh my god.
It's like, yeah.
and then Cloud is like kicking a pebble, and the only good one is Leveling doing the spin.
Yeah, the spin kick. That could have gone really. It would have been really awkward, but he was kind of athletic, so it was nice.
So
that he,
you wonder about the keyboard, but you don't wonder about the spin kick. How many times do you think it took him to get that right?
I mean, that's not. Just,
At least stop breaking
that's not,
hardware.
Halfway through a game, sorry, having a technical issue with my keyboard. Oh well, you have to play on it. I broke them off the shop this morning.
all right.
Okay.
Man.
We good? We done with
What
the
a
broadcast?
what a hard ass, man. Gotta love Uzi. Yeah. Alright, this has been a good episode, guys. Just kidding.
Good job, guys.
All right.
The
Done with it.
one last thing that I want to say, please, Kelsey, DreXx, and Raz and I will answer any questions that you guys have on Twitter. We make it a priority of ours to interact and to help you guys find the correct answers. But we don't control the broadcast. We have nothing to do with the Riot broadcast. We don't control if they use Tencent feed. We don't control if they show the players. We don't control what the delays are. Please stop asking me on Twitter to do something I don't. I have no power. I can't do anything.
VODs, please, Reno. VODs?
Mods, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't tell you where or if there will be VODs. They said there will be no VODs this week for the game.
Where are the VODs? Why aren't you guys using the feed from the arena? Where is Dandy? Where is Deft? I don't know.
Is HYY NaMei?
I was actually
Is
pretty.
that Ackerman?
I was actually pretty happy that the two big ones I got were where's NaMei and where's Cloud.
Mhm.
So
Yay,
People
people did
care.
homework. Kind of.
people care.
Okay, guys, my first question on my notes is the age-old question. That's literally what it says. It says age-old question.
Age-old
World
question.
Elite or Invictus Gaming?
I love this question. I love that it's being posed now and not 2012. So, yeah.
I do like going back to the broadcast again that they did the narrative, I think, really well for this game. The fact that even though the reason why this question is phrased the age-old question of World Elite versus Invictus Gaming is because these are one of the two longest-standing Chinese franchises, the royal guard, if you will, of China, like these two superpower teams. But their rosters, not anything like they used to be. And so I like the fact that the new LPL stream kind of redefined the narrative for that and kind of talked about how, World Elite has to rise back to all their criticism of not being China's team, and IG is still a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
A fustercluck.
A fustercluck.
A clusterfuck.
Yeah. I don't know. WE's not looking very hot, but I actually really am surprised by IG's performance, given that they're not using the default roster I considered that they would consider default. So yeah, I still have kind of issues with Pokemon, but I actually think that it's not really
Well, they
necessary that
wanna-
they bring in Zitai.
Rookie and Cricket
Yeah.
House.
Oh, of course, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's going pretty well for them. I actually feel like IG, strategically, is probably a top 3 right now, just from what I've seen this weekend. Although it's a bit early to tell, but I was actually pretty impressed. Just because they also have the whole, communication issues and barrier to deal with, and it doesn't seem to really bother them, whereas in teams like Vici Gaming or something, it seems like it's a huge issue. So...
I actually like Pokemon. Going into IG's rosters when we saw the finalized roster, I liked the idea of Pokemon Rookie.
Why do you like Pokemon?
Because I feel like, okay, it comes down to the importance of top lane. I felt like even the top lane is extremely important, and that's true. But I felt like having a definitive shot color, or just a consistent one, because all I wanted was IG to shed their old issue with shot calling. And as much as I love Zitai, I felt like if you maybe put in Rookie and have really just like a cow and I'm not even sure who else actually shot calls.
So you
that.
like Pokemon because you hate Zatai.
I don't hate Zitai. And I felt like the difference between save and Pokemon would not be like you can use Pokemon. Okay, initially I was like, okay, you have Pokemon. If he shits the bed, it's fine because he'll be on a tank, and as long as you have the definitive shot calling for him to go in and when to go in, it'd be fine. But actually, he played super well, or at least in my opinion. The first game he played, he was into a countered matchup. He was going up against it's Aluka, right? But like he went up against his Rumble and completely shut on that matchup. I was like, okay, fine, this
He had a
guy's really good.
Maokai.
Yeah, Maokai, and he destroyed Rumble, and I was like,
Yeah, but Maokai's like super easy to play. I'm gonna throw seven
Yeah.
here. I'm gonna.
I'll
Yeah,
agree
like,
to
he was, like, on
disagree
a
on.
technically advanced champion like Rumble.
Yeah,
I
I'll agree to
submit
disagree
that-
with Pokemon.
and then
I
the second.
submit that he was a big reason they lost to Snake, though.
Oh, okay, that's
He
true.
had
Yeah.
I will support Raz, and I will say he had a really nice teleport in the first game, like the opening game. I was like, damn, Pokemon came to play.
Yeah.
Or he like teleported
He
behind
had-
the second tier mid tower, and then he like walked down into the enemy team, and then it's like, oh shit, there's a Pokemon there. It just like came out the bush.
He had some
It was a wild
decent
Pokemon.
Rumble ultimates.
Mhm.
I will. That's my praise for Pokemon for the week. I'll try to.
They
I'll
were
try to
better.
give
They were better
all
than
of my,
Loopers.
I'll try to give every player deserving of a pick me up some praise. There we go.
So
here's
There's
the
my
thing.
Pokemon praise.
While we're talking about Pokemon, because I like that we kind of brought up champions a little bit, like we're talking about the Rumble, the Maokai, and things like that. Everyone keeps saying that the meta is trending more towards a carry-style top laner. And of course, for Invictus Gaming, you have Save sitting on the bench, you have Acorn and Flame on the LGD roster, so they can kind of swap between, you know, like the utility tank and the hard carry. Do you think when the meta finally does really shift over, when Renekton gets his big patch, for whatever reason, if teams other than EDG seem to value Aurelia, or teams other than Starhorde Royal Club seem to value Nara more, that we'll start to see Save subbed in more? Because obviously as that meta shifts and it takes the style away from Pokemon, he's going to become more and more of a liability.
Mhm.
I can agree. Actually, the thing is, though, it's like it's weird because IG. I thought they'd be like rotating roster, kind of like LGD, but it doesn't seem that way. But I don't think it's so much based on what becomes top lane meta. More so, like if I were on IG's squad and I was like coaching them or something, I'd probably just throw in Save and like Z-Tai, I guess, whenever like new mid laners come out. Just because I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit more crucial than top lane, and like. It's hard to say.
I think-
Yeah.
The difference between LGD's situation and IG's, and I will say that it publicly IG has said they want to do a rotating roster, so it's possible that they just tried it and it was not working.
They could have
or
also
that
just
will,
wanted-
or they might be swapping weeks or something. I don't know. But the thing I will say, the difference between IG and LGD is they're swapping 2 players instead of 1, and that's pretty huge.
Mhm.
Do you think it's
Are
possible, like, they just wanted to hype? It's the first weekend of LPL that they just wanted to run Kakao and Rookie as like a, come watch us, come support IG, we've got these Korean superstars.
Normally I'd say no, but since that's always been how IG treats the regular season, then I guess like I actually can't completely dismiss that. But
And look at all the ads for Kakao. He just actually got in trouble for like having an ad on a different title that wasn't League of Legends. So IG is like pimping him out.
Yeah, it's not a Tencent name, and it wasn't IG who did it. It was his previous contract holder. And
He's being pimped out. Kakao is a very popular player.
yeah.
I think the strategy of like swapping in Save will be really good in the next meta coming up. And it's honestly, coming into it, I didn't really value it all too much. I was like, you just need 5 solid players, and for them to make that change in champions when it comes up. But you know what? It has a lot of value. Like LGD subbing in Flame, that really does mess up the flow of your research that you put into that game. Because like, well, suddenly that's a whole new champion pool that we have to worry. And the champion style is like the player style as well. So yeah, I do like the idea of it now.
Okay, so do we have any other statements on the World Elite versus Invictus Gaming game? It was the opening game of LPL. Started off with historical rivalry.
I'm sorry,
Thought it was
Spirit.
an awful game.
I think everyone needs to apologize to Spirit because he's in a bad position right now.
You would see him like go to invade the red buff, and he was like, "Okay, my team. I got I got Ninja in the mid lane that's gonna come with me, and I know Rookie's gonna be in there, and it's gonna be Cacao. Not gonna invade. Like he popped his ult when he started running. He was like, no, never mind. I'm out.
I'm good. I accept all of your sins.
I just feel like the follow-up on World Elite is very poor right now, for sure. And IG's, like, polar opposite there. Like, I feel like their follow-up is a lot better, and also their vision is quite impressive so far. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird, just because well, at least in the first game.
Their vision was a little wonky, like, actually really weak.
Yeah.
Against World Elite? Well, maybe in, like, future sets, but...
known as, like, a big vision controlling person. I will say this, though, like... And agree with me if you or disagree, DreXx, but like watching Cacao, I wouldn't say it's like his like vision control. I don't think that's a big thing for him. But how he like moves around the map and where he ganks is actually like pretty creative, in like the places that he walks around. So I think he gives his team a lot of I like to call it invisible pressure. Obviously with like his ganks, just because his gank patterns are really like bizarre.
Sure. I don't know. It's hard to judge IG off of this set just because I feel like World Elite played a lot weaker than they did in some of the third-party tournaments, so it was really weird. I don't know. And
I even feel like IG had more trouble against Gamgee, so that's weird. The game was stalled out too long. They were like afraid to make plays in certain areas. It was just really underwhelming. And then I think the difference between the first night of games and the second night of the games, people were saying, oh, these hybrid rosters, they look so good. The Koreans are hard carrying. There are no communication issues. But I think that the more games we see, the more we kind of see where disconnects are and trying to work together, stuff like that.
You talk about hyper carrying. The Koreans hyper carrying their teams. To be frank and to be honest, Spirit is hyper carrying World Elite.
Yep.
And Rookie and Cacao were definitely the standouts in the Invictus Gaming game. And if we look at Masters 3, Dade, when he decided to either wake up from his coma or
stop drinking
or stop like put down the bottle, like so isn't that kind of true? Like why?
I mean, I think that we're seeing the strong. My thing is that I almost feel like a lot of these teams picked up these really strong Koreans and then didn't have any resources to make within inside China roster moves. This is kind of almost how it feels, because why would you get Spirit and then keep Ninja? Why would you get Rookie and Cacao and then have Pokemon as your top laner? Like, there are good top laners still left in LSPL, on LSPL teams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be... I mean, Pokemon could just, like, mesh with the team well, too. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's that, but there's always going to be that argument, but I think that some of the roster moves, like, they picked up these Koreans just because they're really high-quality, high-reputation Koreans, but some of the teams didn't necessarily think about where they fit on the roster, what kind of support they'd need. That said, on the Master 3 game, when Dade did decide to show up, it was kind of like, well, we had Raw play really well on Rek'Sai too, and he was like kind of the secondary force. I would say that outside
he was the primary force.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dade, but Raw was like 10, 1, and 6. Everyone's like, man, Dade's so amazing. Look at that play, and like Rua's like 1v4.
Well, with that, he was playing Rek'Sai, obviously. So there's only so much credit.
I only see a significantly better draft phase.
Yeah.
That's true. You can't discredit that.
Was pretty disgusting. For M3, Starhorn World Cup really screwed that up.
Man,
it's hard to gauge because you'll get those teams, and then you'll have teams where you feel like the Chinese are kind of pulling more weight, like in Edward Gaming.
Do you think this is
in some instances?
Of, and I know that we've kind of like thrown out the communication word a lot, but think about it this way. So you have like a brand new team. Obviously, even if you all speak the same language, it takes a little bit to get going, to synergize, to make that communication. So obviously you would project that or you should be projecting that if a team that has a new roster as time goes on, theoretically when putting the team together, that they will get better over time. Like no one is like assembling a team. It's like, okay, in 5 weeks they're going to be so much worse than they are. So do you think that we see these Koreans effectively hard carrying, like in the games of World Elite versus Invictus Gaming, because the teams haven't had time to mesh yet, and these Koreans that are coming in are S-class, World OGN title, they're really good in a 1v1 basis, so they're just going to straight up dumpster their lane. Do you think it's going to be different as that, like the mechanical, like OMG, mechanically brute forcing their games right now, that they don't really need much for strategy? Do you think as the teams kind of figure it out and everyone gets back on the same page that it's going to be more about strategy and that we'll see either these Koreans fall in line with their Chinese counterparts, or do you think this is always going to be Invictus Gaming is hard carried by Rookie and Kakao?
I see that it depends on the teams. Specifically with IG, I do see, and maybe it's just me, but I do see like the reason why I'm so hyped on Pokemon right now is because you can see his progression, and you don't have any reason to really say that he'll get worse over time. I think that he will become a kind of like Koro.
Unless we say that like the meta is going to shift and we don't know if he can play carries.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one way to say that, okay, he could become worse. And that's kind of the thing that I did used to say about Koro, is that the meta shifted into carries, because we saw on Rising Stars that was kind of a failing of the team. And then
maybe I didn't phrase it well. The question that or the situation that I was creating is that I don't think it's so much the teams. I don't think it's Invictus Gaming, like, not synergizing and allowing Rookie and Kakao to carry them. I think it's the fact that everyone else sucks. So that they don't have to synergize, that Rookie and Kakao can just get away with, diving inhib towers with Fizz and then immediately dying. Like, they can do that crazy stuff because the other teams are so uncoordinated. Like, M3, I don't know what it is about M3. Every time they play someone, they make their enemy look like shit. And that's not to say that M3 looks amazing. M3 also looks like shit. But it's just, like, weird. It's like they pull them down to their level or something like that. And I'm just wondering, as time goes on, when teams figure it out and they start playing more cohesively and they look more like a team, if that's going to kind of be the separator between, like, oh, a good team that just has mechanically proficient players that are just going to hard carry, and an amazing team that has these mechanics and the strategy.
And this is what I said, because this is kind of earlier today on Twitter, is I was watching this and then I look at all these teams and honestly, they all look awful. Like, I can't even... They're just all bad. Like, I was thinking on the first day, Edward Gaming looks really good, but then they played Vici Gaming, and there were some hiccups there. I think LGD has some very obvious strengths. Like, I would put those teams probably based on the games that I saw at the top two, LGD and Edward Gaming, in terms of how they play as a team, but they have so many... intact. That they have so many issues where, like, this very obvious misplay, and then they die in the side lane for no reason, and on Edward Gaming, they're engaging on the wrong target in this instance, or why did Pawn... Edward Gaming, also. I said Edward Gaming in particular. I'm focusing on LGD and EDG right now. And why did Pawn get solo queued by Hutong of all people? Like, what is going on?
I do understand that Hutong showed like that he's decent. Like,
Hutong's Azir was really good, but then again, Azir is also really, really unfair.
Really broken.
So I mean, it's hard to judge off
again,
that.
Assassin was great.
The solo kill on Pawn was like Syndra versus Jace, and what Syndra's gonna do that. But I just things like, I don't know. It's really hard to say that any team is like really, really good right now.
In terms of hard carry potential, I mean, like, yeah, I believe that these like top tier Koreans will always be standout players, but I feel like the disparity is going to shrink a bit, just because I feel like just with the inclusion of these players, it's going to force China to raise the standard bar. So I mean, the region as a whole will get better, and they will have competition. But I think just if we're just covering the spring split, I think it's too short term for anyone to really just do a better job at being the standout players than these people that are being showcased right now.
And I do think that the LPL right now is kind of top heavy in the sense that you have you look at the top 4 teams and you will see, like, you'll just look at the list of the teams and you're like, yeah, these teams right here, they're definitely top 4. IG, OMG, EDG,
I
LGD. Okay, maybe not.
IG top 5.
Really?
Still, yeah.
Who would you put there
She
in their
wants
place?
to put King.
King.
I know. I'm not even putting King top 5
Okay,
anymore.
okay.
Well, there has to be 5 teams that take top 5. So I mean, like even
I
if they're
know.
bad, it's like, well, you guys are doing well enough, so we're just starting from 3rd. There's no first and second yet. Yeah.
I would say right now
Real
EDG, LGD, OMG, and then I'm kind of torn on where I want to put Vici Gaming versus Starhorn Royal Club.
Okay, that's fair.
That's only 4.
That's 5.
Yeah, that's 5 because either way, 4th or 5th, you put them. Okay, that's fair. I think Vici's gonna have a longer time to improve because of very obvious problems that they have. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't want to like put it all on Vasilii, but like Christ, man, like he
I
was-
mean, this is how I feel about Pokemon too. So.
really okay. I would not put him on Vasilii's level.
You're gonna like.
I
I don't know,
like
dude.
how-
I don't think I don't think Vasily was
I
as
like-
bad as you're thinking, though. I don't think
like
he
how
was.
before you tell me that I bash Vasilii too much, and now you're like, Pokemon way above Vasilii, man.
Okay,
Whoa.
Vasilii's potential. I thought he was
No,
especially
no,
a
no, no,
really
no, no. There's no potential with Vasilii. Okay,
No,
we've
there
had
isn't.
Vasilii. We've seen him for a couple splits. We know what he
He
does.
has the
He's a
same
Tristana
champion
player.
pool-
That's all
yeah.
he plays. Is he plays
Ouch.
Tristana. Let's not joke and kid and say Vasilii's a world-class AD carry. He's amazing. He can stand with the best. You're in a fucking region with Imp, Deft, NaMei, and Uzi. I'm sorry, Vasilii. You don't come in 5th. You don't.
I thought he was gonna be at least like okay, but to the level, even to the level you couldn't put him at, he played much below that. Like, and you can have criticisms based on Pokemon's play, but I don't know if it was just based on great shot calling, but if there was any moment that IG could engage, he engaged on his Maokais. Like he went in.
Are we talking about
regardless-
Pokemon again?
Going back to that, because I'm comparing
Pokemon
it to
fan club.
Pokemon and like Vasilii's level of bad. I don't think Pokemon is
I
bad.
don't know, man.
I think Vasilii is just.
No,
Okay,
not
so
even-
bad.
Vasilii faced UZI and Deft, okay?
Yeah, that's
Who did
exactly what I'm
Pokemon
saying.
Face? Who did Pokemon face, Raz? Aluka and Let Me. And I like Let Me. I think he's really gonna be he might get better, but like he's not the UZI and Deft of
Okay, that's
the
fair.
top
It's the
lane.
context, man. That's what I was saying. Is like I
That's
don't
true,
think
that's
Vasily did that bad. I mean, he lost both lanes or both times against his opposition. But the thing is, like, yeah, the comparison is ridiculous. Like, you're
That's
putting
right.
Vasily, who wasn't even a top 80 carry in North America in terms of like probably top 2 at least, and you're like, I mean, it's like putting, I don't know, not Cop, I don't know, just like any random North American 80 carry against Deft and Uzi, they're not going to do well. It's
Okay,
I don't know. I feel like just because my expectations were so low, I can safely say he like held his own and he didn't just like die a lot.
But at the same
so.
time,
And he
had
played
Mata
Tristana
as
well.
his support.
Yeah.
And he was laning against Deft, and Deft's not known for his lane phase. It's not like, oh shit, I'm laning against Deft, I better be careful.
Right.
Like,
He was on the Bronx. Like,
And
Mata was
Mouse
on-
might get the faker chair, but let's be real here.
Yeah. Okay.
Even
that's
Mouse
fair, 'cause
must have felt that was wrong. Anyway,
it was
sorry.
ironic. It was very ironic because I wanted to actually make the same point that I did get a lot of people making comments at how Vici was playing poorly and how Snake is playing so well, but it does come back to the schedule. Like Snake, in the end of the day, like these were expected wins from Snake. Maybe not so much on World Elite, but World Elite really did shit the bed on that. Even especially on picks and bans. I'll probably get back to that later when we get to the game. But Snake had an easier schedule in week 1. I don't even expect them to win any of. I looked at the schedule, and I don't expect them to win any of the games in the next 4 weeks. So, spoiler alert.
something people have to realize, those who are new to China, because I feel like people, and yeah, the schedule is incredibly heavy, you know,
Mhm.
Again, 24 games in a weekend. That's like insane. So obviously you would say like, I've had so much Chinese League of Legends thrown at my eyeballs. I should feel exactly where you should have a good feeling about where these teams are going to go. But honestly, I don't. Like, looking at all these games, I'm like, your shit, this is awful. What are you doing? Where are you going, Starhorn? The base, just kill it. Oh my god, it's so
Can we
bad.
talk about the irony of Insect's playstyle versus his shot calling?
Yeah.
I can't even right now.
Oh, but wait, hold on. Just let me finish this point. So, the thing that I really want to emphasize to people who haven't watched LPL is this region's nuts. Okay, you can have this amazing, undefeated, crazy team, and then they'll go and they'll get 2-0'd by fucking Young Glory. Like, shit like this happens all the time. Just because a team comes out and they just look super dominating does not mean that that's going to last. It can. We've had OMG where they go on their, like, crazy 23-3 records, but just give it some time. I'm sure things will settle.
And this is the thing I also go back to with these hybrid rosters is people are coming out and saying, you know, that it doesn't seem to be that much communication issues. With Team WE, last year, they were last split with Ninja and Axiom. They did actually pretty well initially. Like, they didn't lose a lot of games. They were tied for third place with Edward Gaming and OMG all the way through week 5. They actually beat Edward Gaming at a LAN, and then suddenly the meta changed, and you could see that they couldn't adjust as quickly as some of the other teams because they had these communication issues, and it wasn't in line with how they were naturally playing. With Starhorn, it was okay.
Starhorn.
With Starhorn, it was okay because they're like, we would rather play this way anyway. But
Yeah.
That was after.
so
That was like the roaming period, I think. When
sometimes
was winning and caught
the
up.
communication issues are things that you see over time and things that they aren't dealing with initially because they can kind of find something that works right now. But as patches come, as things change, as some teams start to get much better and some teams start to work and other teams don't, that's when you know that there are communication issues.
I just think people kind of hold over their expectations of almost like the Korean league, because in Korea, and I'm not like an avid OGN or LCK or whatever you want to call it watcher, but like the best teams in Korea, when like the season starts, like those teams, they show up. It's like everyone's ready, they've been prepped for this, you have the extended preseason, and then it comes into the actual season, everyone's like ready to go. And China, we talk about how it pretty much never ends, there's a bunch of third-party tournaments, but you know, like Invictus Gaming has a reputation of not taking things seriously for the season. EDG has a reputation of they only turn it on the playoffs. Like they'll be right there, but then the playoffs come and it becomes like a completely different team. There's definitely a different mentality and a different flavor to how the leagues are run in LPL. Like things are bizarre. You will see crazy upsets. And so I feel like the viewer base is kind of like, oh man, this team is so good, that team's shit. And they're like ready to make like a hard and definite line thinking that it's only going to go up from here. And I guarantee you it's going to go like this.
Yeah. Because we did see like a lot of, like a good example is like how much expectations we have for King, and then they lose to the .A retirement team.
Not a retirement home and friends.
And you're like, what happened? And you're like, well, we'll see. We'll see what's going on as the season goes by.
So now this kind of leads into the question. Actually, we were talking about Vici Gaming. I have like this list of questions, but I want to talk about this with you guys, or at least get your thoughts. Vici Gaming, Dandy didn't look so hot. And, you know, we had like a lot of things for Dandy, you know, being this world-class jungler and how different jungling is from Korea to the rest of the world, but B, like Korea specifically to China. Because a lot of people who aren't familiar with the Chinese scene, they'll come in and they'll watch these Chinese games and they'll say things like, this is so sloppy, these teams are so bad, what the fuck are they doing? This is awful, like they don't know how to jungle. I mean, these are a lot of criticisms that have happened, not even just in this last weekend, but like over the course of like last year. And then yet the Chinese teams show up and they still do really well. And I think people don't understand the jungling meta in China and how it is very different. And it doesn't surprise me that Dandy would struggle a little bit, especially in the Chinese jungle meta. So,
and it's not even just that.
it.
I mean, not even just that, but what are you supposed to do when all of your lanes are losing more or less?
Yeah,
like in the case of OMG, they're, and this isn't because like Loveling was ganking for them or anything. It was just in the second game of OMG versus Vici Gaming, there were like 50 to 70 gold leads in bottom and mid, and then top it was like 10 to 20. So
CS.
Yeah, sorry, CS, excuse me. So what do you do? This isn't like the jungle is ganking and you don't know how to help your lanes, or you're not counter ganking well enough, or you're not making your own ganks or your own plays, or you don't have vision, because they had good vision. It's Dandy and Mata. They made effort to go and do the deep wards when they could get any advantage or any window to do that. It's just that's you can't do anything with that.
Yeah, I mean, if
It's
your lanes
really-
if your lanes aren't at least like remotely even, I mean, especially since Dandy's so known for his counter gank potential, if like those ganks aren't coming off in the first place in order to win those lanes, then he can't really kind of he can't really, you know, fill his like specialty role there either. So, I mean, what happens then?
And
Pretty
it
much
just
those
comes down
games.
to, yeah, like, what are people like, or what are you basing your expectations off of? Because, like, for three examples, you have TBQ, who is a jungler who has winning lanes, like, consistently. Imp and PY will win lane, like they will win the lane. Top lane will win, mid lane will win. So you just see him, like, either sitting comfortably in the back and not doing much, or, like, there's that one time in the game in EP where he was playing Rengar, and he, like, the only gank he did was where he, well, not the only gank, but actually pretty much the only gank. He ganked mid and got counter ganked and, like, got destroyed by Captain 57, but, like, he is in a comfortable team. And then you have another jungler, which is Spirit, who is trying his own way to hard carry his team by playing Riven and just, like, trying to do some weird solo queue things, because maybe he doesn't trust in his team, and he would have a good reason for that. But then you go to Dandy, and honestly, I think he's trying to play that structured team game, and he doesn't have winning lanes. So
Has there ever been a carry jungler and from China? Like, there's been good junglers, but I'm talking about like a team who is carried by their jungler.
Amy,
I would say it's dependent on, because
I'm trying to think.
I would say that OMG has an issue where they split up the gold very evenly. Like, they give Loveling more gold than almost any other jungler in China.
Works out great at international events.
And he used to, like, his trademark was always to, when he played Yorick or all these weird duelist junglers, he used to go into the enemy jungle, deep ward, and then go in and he would find the jungler and kill them repeatedly. Like, this was something, like, he did this with, like, the Doran's Blade Elise, stuff like that. So I would say that that's, like, Jing people said carry positive energy, kind of. I still would give more credit to the bottom lane. It's hard to say that there's been a carry jungle. I would say not really.
Not in the sense that other regions have it, at least.
Loveling, I would say, is the closest thing in terms of he gets a large amount of gold. But again, the thing about OMG is that everyone carries at some point in time.
I like how we asked for a carry jungler and no one says Insec. No one even was like...
Because I don't think that's true.
No, and I agree with you.
But
But it's really
that's
funny.
not what you think about as a carry jungle, yeah.
Dom is saying Oldby. I think Amy, the former jungler for EP before he got changed to Dandy, Amy really put on his carry pants. He was like the major carry for that team, actually. But yeah, I'm not sure what's
Gaming,
happening.
you mean, right?
So why do you think that there's no carry junglers in China, as opposed to, you know, globally? Like, why do you ever think that Cacao and Dandy and, I don't know, even Insect, like these Korean junglers will be able to just like hard carry from the jungle position in China? Is there something stylistically different about this region that doesn't allow them to do that?
It's because of how fast paced the early game is. There's not already. You have very limited resources for farming.
Yeah,
as a
but
jungler.
Dandy's from Samsung White. That team, like, crafted the
you
early skirmish. Like,
you can say that, but
aggressive
they
snowball.
also, it's still much more calculated, putting the wards down, like making sure you clear out the enemy jungle first, making sure this is set up, whereas opposed to, like, China is just, okay, I cleared out my jungle, I immediately have to rush bottom lane and dive. Or sometimes I'm gonna give this, like, it's not as set up. There's not as much setup, so there's not as much time to farm. There's not as much
It's a
response.
reactionary playstyle.
Yeah, it's not really, like, jungles are much more starved, I think, as a general rule in China than in other places. So and then also because there is this focus on the bottom lane, it's kind of like a game theory thing. If you don't go, he's gonna go. And then whoever kind of is more prepared or whoever gets there faster is going to look better. And so the other guy is going to look really bad. Sometimes avoiding that if your bottom lane is good at like being more conservative. And this is, I think, how OMG sort of developed their unique style, is that they had this really conservative bottom lane that knew how to not like get destroyed by an enemy jungle. So then leveling looked better because his jungle path was freer, things like that. So it's really kind of an awkward situation that they're in, because it's like, what are you going to do if you know he's going to be there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
DreXx and Raz.
Yeah, I actually
Chinese junglers.
No, I actually do agree, and I think the unpredictability factor actually does work against Andy, just because they're so used to having everything so laid out and knowing exactly when things are coming. And like, ironically, China is more of like that, like Wild West sort, you know, and everything's just. Yeah. I mean, it's just like he can't really capitalize on his forte, and that's true for a lot of, I guess, Korean junglers coming over. And in fact, Kickoff is probably the most successful out of all the junglers that have gone there so far in terms of like what I think he brings to the team outside of like Insec when Starhorn Royal Club was kind of forming their playstyle and making it work out really well last split. So
yeah, in my opinion, there's a few reasons that, yeah, it's already been said that it's this playstyle that comes out in the Chinese jungling that's more reactive, but also it's comes to a larger issue, and I'm not so sure on Chinese scouting. There's a lot of players, or like junglers, supports. Most since we're on the subject of junglers, Amy, like there are amazing players out there in the LSPL and just like out in, don't even touch solo queue. Just look at the people who have proven themselves on teams, but are just not being used. They are out there, but they're just not being used. And so I'm just gonna stop myself because I don't want to trail too far off. But I guess no, I'm gonna go for it anyways. Like I'm just gonna go for it anyways, just to support the claim.
He's going through that do not pass sign. He's just like, bam, let's go.
Just like, all right, here we go. Like for instance, OMG has always had a problem with supports. Like, oh my god, look at all these supports on our rosters that we cannot use. Oh, Cloud is just, he's a great laner, but I don't know about the team fights. Well, we have Luo, I don't know. It's just, they can never find, they always have a problem. And you're like, are we not seeing the same LSPL? Like, 300, he's right there. Just pick him up, pluck him out, throw him some money, and I'm sure he'll do it for free. Like, he'll be on the LSPL, he'll be on the LPL. Like, just give it to somebody who has proven themselves to be gods at their positions. And I don't know what's happening. And so, and another thing that has really shown me that they maybe don't put a lot of attention to, this is really going all over the place, I just realized, because my next example is like, that they don't look through the LSPL, is Team Snake versus World Elite. That game, the picks and bans for it was horrible. Like, why are you banning LeBlanc against that team? I mean, if it's against Flandre's cheese, like Trinity forced like LeBlanc top, then you'll have a lot more problems. Like, why are you banning against that? And if they think that like Copy can play that, then you're just not watching his play. And if you're banning it for the bot lane, then no, Colin is not on that team anymore. He doesn't, like, he's the only, Colin and the top laner were the only players that played LeBlanc. I don't know, maybe they're seeing something that I'm not, but I was just so outraged by that.
Some of it is really weird too, though. Like, for example, Starhorn banned LeBlanc against M3. Did they watch Demacia Cup side?
Yeah.
The LeBlanc bans, I think, were just becoming generic last night. So, and the night before.
LeBlanc's really strong though, to be
yeah.
fair, but they keep banning it from blue side. And they keep banning Gnar from blue side too. That happened a couple instances, and I was like, do you not understand?
There are just too many blue side bans. Like, do you want
too many
like
piss poor blue side bans?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that. Do you want to let them first pick Janna? Do you want to let them first pick Rek'Sai? Do you want to let them first pick Lissandra? Do you want to let them first pick Gnar? Do you want to let them first pick Kassadin? Like, what? At a certain point, you can't ban everything on purple side.
Lissandra, Gnar, Rek'Sai, Kassadin, Azir.
And even just like focus on
throw in Janna. You got your 6 really powerful champions that should be contested or banned every single time. And yet we'll end up with like Jarvan first pick. Oh, there goes Rek'Sai. There goes that game. Thanks for playing, King.
Yeah, like, and it comes down to teams. Like, what are they like? Even player-specific bans. I'm like, I was pretty surprised that Cola was still getting his Gnar, even though he was just showing that he was going to stick to that champion and he was going to play extremely well on it. You maybe kind of force him on another champion, see if he actually plays something else to that same level, and we rarely got to see that. Yeah.
Okay. Which team did you overrate the most?
Oof.
King.
I was actually saying I might go with King because, like, okay, I expected them to do well early game, but at the same time, like, a good example is when they're against M3. It's like, okay, yeah, their early was decent, and I was surprised how Assassin was, like, bowling around Dade for a while, but Dade's, like, performance is so confusing that I don't even know how much I want to cut that. But, like, for instance, like, you know, King would just pick Sivir over and over and just shove the wave repeatedly to open up the opportunity for dives, and, like, against M3, they were against... M3 picked Corki, which couldn't really do anything against that. So like they looked like they were really, really strong early game, but I also feel like they picked for that, and then they just like looked ridiculously confused later on, which is like kind of not really. That's not really like what they looked like in the third party tournaments, and that's why I'm really confused, especially
they
against.
were trying.
Another,
Yeah, and they were trying to like move around instead of fighting. Anyway, go ahead.
I wrote on that. Oh wait,
oh my god! Speaking of creative pathing, man, Lei.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man! fuck jungle pathing, dude. This was. If people haven't seen M3 versus King, like, you need to go watch that, because Lei does this, like, ridiculous flank where he, like, goes on an adventure in the woods, just into these mysterious lands.
Too.
Yeah, and he just, like, walks off to the side, and this team fight doesn't work at all. He does manage to get 3 people at the Timber stun, but, like, I'm not talking, like, he walks around, like, this guy, like, traverses the world and just, like, eventually comes back around, and he's just, like, wait for it. I got the perfect setup, guys. They're all just, like, waiting there trying to, like, defend their inhibitor, and, oh my god, it was just fucking glorious. They just he waited so long. Like, the patience of this play was just ridiculous. Like, you'd think that M3 would be approaching the base and think that like he's like AFK or something in the fountain, because like it's like, where's Annie? I don't understand. And then it just like you wait so long for this epic turnout, and then they just get obliterated after like a minute and a half of jungle roaming. It's great. So like, I don't know if they're just like experimenting or what, but they're doing all this wacky shit with like how they move around the map, and it looks super unconvincing. I'm not really a fan.
Wasn't this something that we commented about King previously, that in the LSPL, which is primarily where they got a lot of their experience outside these third-party tournaments, that it was just like a snowball? And this is what we always said about Snake and King, that they snowball incredibly well and they're able to like run people over really quickly, but if you start to play against these experienced LPL teams, or these experienced players that have, you know, OGN championship experience, that like that it goes to late game and they start to fall apart because they don't really know what are we supposed to, like, they don't have the practice with it.
Yeah, well, and that's one of my concerns, though.
Said that, but
we
said that, but the thing is that they still did well again, like consistently.
Consistently, second or first in third-party tournaments. Yeah.
Third party, you can say third party, okay, third party, but at the same time, we still, like, EDG still wins third party the same way they win playoffs. The same teams are still placing, so like the relative ranking might be wrong, but like King probably at this point isn't. They play like all assassins in some of their games and still wreck people. They're not. It's really hard to say that. I think the issue is that they're all young, they are inexperienced, so we're going to see these games where they're trying these things and it's not working, and we might see these games where they actually turn around and they end up like winning really convincingly also. So I think that that's going to be their issue, and I agree, because of that reason we rated them too highly, but...
it's really funny too, because I kind of rated them the lowest out of everyone, and I wrote on how I felt King would... it was like a blog piece on how King would fare, because I felt like they were doing really well in third-party tournaments, but that was, in my opinion, was based on the inexperience of other teams having to face them in high competitive. Because what VODs can you look back on?
I see what you mean. Yeah. Like other teams aren't used to them yet, but they'll figure them out. Okay.
teams haven't played against them. Like one, for instance, like Starhorn Royal Club, they've basically based their that's one. But yeah, they've based their how they play against teams based on like experience. Like they can really dethrone like EDG or OMG just because of that familiarity, that regional familiarity. That they have like teams have not had that familiarity or like have played King that much. And so you have that on top of because like and then what do you research on King? Like you look back at their VODs and most of it are LSPL stomps. Like you cannot research their flaws because they really haven't had the chance to showcase their flaws. So King, this is where we kind of like this is where they'll be defined, like how they adapt to teams starting to realize how to play against them. And once teams realize how to play against them, it's up to King to really show that they can improve. Because the worst thing about King is the fact that they don't know how to close games. And like that's exactly what you expect out of an LSPL team, but that's something that they'll have to shed soon. So, yeah.
At the same time, although it's been a bit inconvincing now, I don't expect another World League Academy situation. Like, I do think that King is adaptive enough to get out of this rut. So I don't think it's just going to be like people are completely overblown with their predictions. I see them actually working on this and fixing it. Just because that's just, I mean, the evidence is somewhat there. I mean, we can say the third-party tournaments don't matter, but at the same time, like it's not like EDG is the only team they've been facing over and over in these third-party tournaments. Like they've shown that they can do it. It's just, I don't know, maybe like they're also, like you said, experimenting a bit just because they're young and stuff. And it's also really early in the LPL split, and there's just so many games that, I mean, I guess why not do it?
Another team that I think we overrated, or I overrated at least, was WE.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, that was.
Well, their most recent results suggested that they would do decently, and then I don't know what happened. So.
Yeah, and I think WGT, they didn't make it out of groups. Snake beat them in WGT. So they had some indication, but there were like 3 games played in WGT. I think that on paper, I was kind of convinced that Spirit could make up for some of Ninja's weaknesses. I think something that really hit is that the opening week of LPL Sivir is huge, right?
Yep.
And STYZ does not play AD carries without escapes well, from my perspective, because his style really relies on him using those abilities to get in and out of fights in like creative ways. And so Sivir isn't going to be able to do that for him. He even tried to play Twitch. So STYZ just was not convincing this weekend, and he's like the other guy that Spirit can kind of rely on to help him with these games. And if he plays Sivir, that's not going to happen.
I was actually really surprised of how big Sivir was for this region in particular. Like, it makes sense, obviously, because the hard engage factor, like, press R to win. But Ezreal is still really in the meta right now. And, like, they were playing a ton of Corki, which Sivir is obviously a great counter against Corki because of how our Spell Shield works with his Phosphorus Bomb. But, like, China's not known for Corki, really. I mean, they play it, but it's all about, like, the Lucian and the Twitch and the Caitlyn, the Vayne, like, those things. But mostly, like, the Lucian. And we didn't have a single Lucian.
Yeah. I think
the Ezreal, that's a huge pick for them. Like,
especially for Kid, man. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, what was that?
Kid has said that he doesn't play Ezreal as much without PDD because he can get more gold.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. I think he should play more Ezreal anyway because he's good at it, but...
It really started to hit me that... Oh, wait, or I didn't think you were done finished. Okay.
I'm just saying, we saw some Ezreal, but we saw Sivir was really the big pick, aside from Corki.
Yeah, I was so surprised. You can tell how big Sivir was a pick because Crystal picked it in game 1. When I was saying, "Oh my God, all he'll do is just pick scaling AD carries," and then like the first game, he's like Sivir, and I was like, okay. And like later on, he literally only picked Tristana later on, which is like that's what I expected. But like that's when you realize like Sivir is such a major pick, Sivir Janna. So yeah, that's interesting to see. That's really funny.
And a lot of times they're actually just using Sivir ult to disengage from Dragon, I noticed. Like, they pick it up and then ult and then run off. So, I mean, that was pretty smart. I think that's part of the reason why it's so popular, honestly.
Movement speed has gotten incredibly more potent. With, like, the speed shrines and things.
Yeah.
Yep.
We saw it a lot last year in the spring. Also, was the big Sivir thing. Teams playing around that Sivir pick. It was huge for UZI, it was huge for San, it was huge for pretty much everyone. So
it's quirky counter because obviously he's an AD caster, she has a spell shield. And then again, Lissandra is incredibly potent right now, so if Lissandra does come through, Sivir like pretty much shits on her. It's the movement speed, objective control with the R and everything like that. But more importantly, it's also the wave clear factor. Like Sivir's wave clear when you have Dragon and Baron and how this affects the creep waves now is so much more potent. So like you have like these 3 elements on this 180 carry that make it really nice. And then like the whole romp mini golem thing where people will take like more experience points and get the level 2 advantage into lane, and Sivir will just start W and instead of trying to take mini golems, she'll just run to the lane as opposed to starting boomerang bling and just ricochet it forward. Like shit like that.
Thing that's unique about how Chinese teams have traditionally used Sivir, which we saw a little bit, is the choke point factor, where you can easily herd someone into terrain or run away, or like this is how OMG always used to do it, is they would have San like look like he's by himself, and then he would just pop his ult as if he's scared running away and chase them into and like have them chase him into a choke point. So just that kind of factor as well, because it's really easy to manipulate where your fight is going to be held using Sivir's ultimate.
Which team did we underrate the most?
I don't even want to say Snake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to get on Snake because I feel like I didn't underrate Snake because I said that Snake was going to be the last place. I still believe that. Like they had the easiest week, first week. So, what I meant was I don't want to say Snake that day. So I don't want to rank Snake at all. One team that I did underrate was,
I think the big one and the easiest one was M3 because I don't think anyone knew what to expect from Dade and Looper.
Yeah.
And looking at that roster, it's a pretty lackluster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really underrate them. I thought they were. I don't know.
I still put them below Royal Club.
They look.
I obviously the king thing, but
they look lost. Like they didn't ever know what to go for or how to abuse power spikes, and just wanted to back off and shop and really these really simple strategical aspects. And I was like, that's kind of weird because the team at least has experience. So I like a lot of it. So I don't know. I wasn't too convinced. I think in terms of underrating, it's hard to say because I guess in terms of how well they did, I guess I could say LGD. That's a big rough thing. I expected them to do well, but I don't know if I expected them to be kind of up there in their own category with EDG.
They faced Starhorn, Royal Club, and Energy Pacemaker.
I know. Yeah. That's why that's a harder question to answer than overrated. I feel.
Ooh,
Cola and Amazing J. Man, Flame is he's back.
That is true, but hey, Flame did play really well, but the competition wasn't the best.
Yeah. For me, it was I want to say Vici Gaming. Oh. I think I really underrated Vici Gaming.
I
underrated Hitong, I guess. I will say that.
Yeah, I won't say I underrated Hitong because I still don't think he's very good.
Wow.
But
I expect him to.
Why are you wowing me? He played Azir and Syndra.
Kassadin.
He could have won.
Kassadin.
He was almost carrying that game as Kassadin. Almost.
I'm waiting to be super wowed, to be honest.
That's true.
All this had the hardest week. They faced both.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And EDG.
And that's why, even though they went 0-2, they made these teams that people thought were going to be convincing and who were really convincing against their other opposition. They made them look like shit. In both of the second games, OMG and EDG kind of won consistently and convincingly in their first games, but in their second games, Vici Gaming made them look like shit. They lost control of team fights, which is traditionally something OMG and Edward Gaming are both known for. Like, that's what they do really well. That's why they win in China. Vici Gaming out team fought them in the mid to late game.
To be fair to Edward Gaming, their composition and their like MO has changed quite a bit.
Well, yeah, but and their team fighting isn't as good as it was before, because I think Pawn is not as good as the team fighting, but it's better in the mid game. But again, going back to the Hatong thing, I still think that Hatong lost really badly to Cool for the most part in lane. He obviously
Oh man, that guy sucks. He lost to Cool in lane.
What is he doing with his life?
It was pretty bad. It was like 70 CS, okay? It was pretty embarrassing.
He did solo kill Pawn,
Korn has solo killed Cool on multiple occasions. Like,
whoa, we're not using Korn as the bottom of the barrel. Like, one guy that made it to the finals of the World Championship, fuck that guy.
I'm just saying that I'm still on the fence on Hatong, but Vici Gaming as a team, in terms of their team fighting, and like the surprises that they could pull, because I want to say, especially with the way Dandy and Modem were manipulating the team fight, Carry's engages were really good. I think that section worked really well. Hatong had some good plays. Even Vasilii had a good game on Tristana where he could just kind of go in, and he was really fed, and he did what Vasilii does with Tristana. So, I mean, I think they could be a lot more surprising than I gave them credit for, and I want to see if they're able to like trash bottom tier teams. So,
I think what's surprising about them is everyone thought that they were only going to have 2 carries, Dandy and Mata, and it turns out that they have 3.
And one of them is actually called Carry.
Carry.
Yeah. I don't know.
His full name is Carry My Team.
I guess
he did well against Koro.
The consistency of their team fights is kind of questionable. I don't know if I fully agree with you on the team fight thing, because in like the second game with Vici Gaming versus OMG, they were like doing fairly well, and then I think they had a fight over by blue buff, like red side blue, and they just like walked up and all just got like immediately annihilated, which I guess is more of like a vision thing than a team fight thing, to be honest. Maybe.
There were 2 team fights in that game where OMG was convincingly better than them in the team fight.
Yeah.
2 team fights in that second game. Only 2. And there were multiple fights that Vici Gaming was convincing on. And you might say something like, okay, Going's Nara initiates were really bizarre that game. There's that, but the second game, like Dandy against Edward Gaming today, was where I was pretty convinced, because there would be these engages, like Clearlove does the engages with Jarvan, where he'll go super deep and then Koro will back up and zone out. But Dandy immediately knew what that asshole was going to do, and he just like kicked Koro out of the way, and Clearlove got destroyed. So I just like, Dandy was able to figure out no. And no one has ever done that to Koro, right? He's always able to do that shit. So
Not today.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing has me kind of, I want to see more of them, and I think I had them really low. So
I kind of like overhyped maybe Vici, mostly because I felt like they all had star players, and this was in a time period that I felt like Vasilii was actually going to add something to the team. But what was me? My team that I underrated was Starhorn Royal Club, because I felt like losing in Uzi, they lost a lot of just like that hard carry potential. And then when I found out that they weren't going to have NaMei, I was like, well, 0-2 boys, and this week is over. But they actually, like, Cola did especially well. I'm gonna blame that on the fact that they didn't ban his Gnar, but whatever. Like, even with that, like, he played pretty damn well. And on top of that, I felt like HYY was able to consistently kind of like stay in the back and output a lot of damage. He got MVP once, which is like, he didn't deserve that MVP, because like, sure, he was legendary that game, like, which is, by the way, like, sub comes in, like, replaces NaMei for that 1 week and like gets a legendary game. That, like, that in itself is really, really funny. But No, he played well.
I
And
feel like the MVP is really skewed for those games. Like, not even just that game,
Yeah.
but just in general. Like, oh, this guy has an insane KDA. Let's give him the MVP. I was like, did you watch the game? Did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Did you see what that guy did? He stood in the back and he
just start
maybe
whacking
threw.
people.
He didn't even do that. He like threw a couple of like shots every once in a while, but I
Mhm.
guarantee you that on the in-game screens that he was like most damage to the champions. Corky, right here, Corky did it. No,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Yeah, that's one positive thing I can say about Korea and LCK was when the MVP comes out, you're like, yeah, that guy definitely deserved it. Like that support did so well for that team. And then I don't know if I'm ever gonna see a support getting MVP here because I feel like they're just gonna base it off of it's like, wow,
KDA. They
what?
literally
Did I
take
hear the
like
word
CS
legendary?
and KDA, and they're just like, give it to him.
They're just
Well,
like listening in game. It's like, did I hear legendary? He's legendary. All right, MVP.
That's always been the weird thing, but I mean, Zero had the most MVP points for Starhorn Royal Club last spring for a really long time. Sometimes they do it, but most of the time it's really questionable. So when people say, Xiong had MVP of spring, I'm just like, Oh, so you mean his team won the most games and he died the least?
Was in a position to get all of the kills because he played Syndra?
Yeah,
Jung and Clearlove have always had like insane MVP standings for some reason.
yeah.
Colors is really popular.
It is kind of a popularity contest too, I think.
I want to talk about Starhorn Royal Club just because, A, we need to talk about NaMei and Raz brought him up. So first and foremost, the NaMei situation. This is why NaMei is not playing. NaMei's transfer to the team was out of transfer period. So Lace is giving pushback saying that because it was an illegal transfer that he is not allowed to play. And of course the team is giving pushback and trying to get him a start date. We don't know when that'll be. I think we assume it's going to be February.
They said it's either February or March, and it has something to do with the EDG contract. So,
But that is what is happening with NaMei and why he is not playing. It's
and
because... Yeah,
NaMei said on his Weibo the week before he plays, he will let everyone know.
Okay.
So.
So are we to expect that Ackerman, I mean HYY, will be holding that bot lane position?
It's my favorite, the LGD games, and going back to the production value. The first game they lose to LGD, like it shows you're going down the line, and Cole is smiling, Insect smiling, Corn is smiling, HYY. And then Zero smiling again at the end. You're just like, they know he's gonna get kicked, and then it's gonna be revenge.
Oh man.
Okay.
I
that's good.
love Zero so much with his personality and his trash talking. Like he said, apparently in an interview, we have no real plans for the other teams, but we know we will camp OMG's bottom lane.
How dare you leave?
Oh.
And I was super excited. I'm so disappointed that NaMei didn't start. Like, the one
Yeah,
bot
same
lane
here.
that I'm so excited for is NaMei and Zero.
Mhm.
Yep.
But let's talk about Starhorn World Cup shot calling, because we touched on it a little bit before, and we're going to touch on it again. So, for those of you who didn't know, Uzi was Starhorn World Cup shot caller. In secondary position was Insect. Since Uzi is gone, we make the assumption that Insect is the shot caller. If you didn't watch Starhorn World Cup's game against, what was it, Masters 3? That was a trash can on fire as far as just like the rotational calls. That was awful. Starhorn Royal Club could have ended that game probably about 4 different situations. They would like have baroned up, like dragoned up minions, going into the base, taking down the inhibitor. There's only 2 people alive, and like, guys, we can't end. We gotta leave. We have to kill every single inhibitor before we can end the game. And they would like back their asses up and they'd go down into the mid lane, or they'd go down into the dragon or get another baron. And I literally was watching that game just like pulling out my hair saying, what the fuck are you doing? Go end the game. So as far as games to watch, I think that one was really special. Because like Kelsey, like you said, Insect is so ham and he's so aggressive. He's so go, 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 go. But in his shot calling, he just grew a giant vagina. And just like couldn't do anything.
We can't play with our 80 carry named after a vagina, so
Oh god.
so we'll play like vaginas instead.
That was so I've never
That
seen
logic.
anything so bizarre. I don't know if they were just like fantasy LPL started and they needed to pad their stats by taking as many objectives as possible, but they did not end the game until they had every single inhibitor, like 5 dragons, a baron, and it was so unnecessary. Maybe Insect just wanted to style on Dade and Looper some more. And by Insect, I mean Cola.
The cool thing was that they could do that, though, right?
It wasn't cool.
Ahead.
It was like, this is revenge for worlds. Let's get them, boys.
It was so
Kill
hilarious.
them all.
Oh my god.
Especially Looper. Get that motherfucker.
How much fun do you think Colo was having just like engaging on Looper?
Those Gnar ults. Like, pretty much watching the game, this is how it went. Oh man, they're not gonna win this Star Home World Cup soon. Oh my god, that Gnar ult!
Every time.
Got hit 5 people, maybe 6.
Oh my god, I want to like keep watching. By the way, this is how much I love. This is how much I love the like Australian casters. By the way, it was like, oh well, Nas down there. Oh my god, what did we just see? Like, that is a 5-man ulti.
And then the best thing is that Looper was hyped up every single time. Okay, I understand that Looper did well when he plays Singe, and, you know, they finally did well in their second part. But the first part, I'm sorry. Looper did not look like a world-class top laner. He got kind of dumpstered by Cola. Like, Cola was the standout. And everyone shits on Cola, and everyone hypes up Looper. And even in the cast, they're like, oh, you know, Looper revolutionizing that. I'm trying to do the Australian accent, but it's not working.
I noticed.
That was a little weird.
Let Raz do it, yeah.
I can't. No, I will
They
stop.
were hyping
No, you
up
did look well.
Okay.
the top lane Annie, and oh, you're so revolutionary coming out, and Cola was just like, and I'm gonna show you how to play Gnar now.
This is the game. Yeah.
It's funny because their sister team, when Starhorn Royal Club faced their sister team in Demacia Cup, Game, the top laner for SHE, played Annie into Gnar and kind of dumpstered a little bit. So I think like that was my guess as to what they were going for. It did not work out.
Well, China has also been really smart about the Morgana top into Gnar as a counter pick, and so I'm like really curious why they didn't ever go that route. Gnar was also picked very late, sometimes like into draft phase, which was bizarre. But then the other thing was Looper's build on Annie top, which, to clarify, Annie top is actually like fairly big in Chinese solo queue, but how they built it, at least in solo queue, from what I've experienced, is they go into Rod of Ages, and then they build straight tank with CDR emphasis. So you'll get like a Morellos, you have like a Rod of Ages, a Morellos, and then you'll have like a fucking like Randuin's Annie top running around. And it's a 40% CDR Annie build, and so her E is on 24/7, which if you look at the stats that her E gives her, which is her Molten Shield, it's effectively a free Thorn Mail. And so you have, like, dropping Tibbers, like, every 35 seconds on this really tanky Thornmail up little girl. So that was kind of bizarre. He went, like, a Zanya's, but he couldn't finish it in time. And then he went, like, a Morello's to get his CDR there. Still didn't finish it in time. It was...
Some of the build orders were just so weird. Like, that one time when UZI had, like, the Pokemon build where he had, like, a Brutalizer and... No, this was Dade, actually. Dade had, like, a Last Whisper.
Weird builds.
He had a Last Whisper and a Brutalizer and a Cutlass. And I was like, what are you doing, man?
There was a time when Wujin had a BF Sword, Pickaxe, Avarice, Brutalizer. Like, so he just decided to, like, not complete either of those items. It was really weird. But I think it was just, like, really unfortunate backing circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
At least I hope so.
I
just need to add some color to my inventory.
We're trying to give them to the benefit of the doubt here.
Yep.
No, okay. Anything else in Starhorn Royal Club?
No, not really. Felt like Cola was good. Korn was great.
Cola was good. I just want to see more non-Gnar games from him before I judge how much he's improved.
That's true.
I like that Korn is like having fun with
Kassadin.
That's fun to see.
Mm.
His Fizz was again. It used to be good. We swear.
I want to talk about Dade and Dade counterpicking himself. Okay, notice how the 2 games that Dade doesn't put himself in a losing matchup, he suddenly is able to carry, and Masters 3 wins their games. I don't understand what's going on, if this is a coaching problem, because now we can blame the coaches, because they're in there for pick and ban. What the fuck are you doing picking, like...
It's classic Dade. That's all it is. It's just classic Dade.
That'd be great if like the coach is like hovering over them and Dade's like swatting him off. Like, get out of here. I got this.
Dade's he just picks whatever he wants, and he decides when he wants to care. And
he picked Jason to Kassadin, which Jace is going to build a tier first. Typically, the age-old thing about Kassadin is you pick a really strong lane champion to bully him before he gets his ultimate, and he's like, Jace, tier, no battle stats, let's go, boys, I'll see you late game. Oh shit, it's Kassadin. And then he picks Azir into Kassadin. And Kassadin's probably the #1 counter to Azir, because obviously Azir's ult isn't going to affect Kassadin, who's just going to rift walk over it and punch you in the face anyway. And then when he finally got the matchup of Yasuo versus Azir, I was like, there you go, Dade. And what happens? He dumpsters his lane, they win the game. Which, it was still really close, but Dade played well.
Yeah, very well. I like the one thing I loved about the production value of the Chinese stream is that every single time you would see like, oh, well, they lost the game, or at least like, or Dade got killed or something. You just like, the camera pans right into Dade's face, and it's like, it's an expressionless face. He's like, yeah, that just happened. Yeah.
Yep, I just shadowed in the wall.
Yeah. It was like, all right, that's beautiful.
Looper failing, like, how many flashes did Looper fail this weekend?
Oh my god, it was embarrassing. His Rumble ult was so poor too, it was weird.
Was it really weird? The top laner that had the best team in the world that inflated.
Okay, I didn't expect him. There was literally a time he threw a Rumble ult like into the fucking like mountain. It was like, what? I don't know. I mean, like that shouldn't happen on World Team. Yeah, accurate. Yeah, that was there you go. There's a verb for it. That's what he did at Worlds.
Hey, man. I have a little bit of Ackerman in my heart.
Ackerman did say on Weibo that he feels that Cola has proved he is the superior top laner, so he is okay with being on the bench.
That's very nice of him, by the way.
Did someone just give Cola a compliment?
Yeah.
Ackerman?
Already on my...
That godlike top Renekton?
He's the best Renekton in the world, Mike.
Let's go going in his same region. Just saying.
Oh, man.
Well,
Going has a Renekton onesie, guys.
It's an alligator onesie.
are you serious? Is that a thing?
Nah, it's
he has an alligator onesie.
I want pictures of this stat. I want this.
I posted it on Twitter at one point.
Alright.
Okay. What else do I have on my notes? Standout set for each person on the panel. What is your each person on the panel? What was your standout? If you had to pick any game, which one would you pick?
I don't. Okay, I'm gonna look like an idiot. I'm gonna go first. Okay, so there were a lot of great sets. I felt like for the week 1 was kind of like lopsided in the sense that you always had the great teams going up against the
really shitty teams.
Yeah, pretty much. But one game that I loved was the LGD versus EP. Now it was a 2-0 for LGD, but for me, it really showed two things. Of course,
it was a 1-1 in my heart.
It was I felt it right here. Right? You know what? It was a 2-1. EP gets a win just for the play. All right. Captain 57 really showed that his play was like what I expected it to be. He really showed that TBQ was just like a substandard jungler, and it's hard to say that because
how dare you say that about Tren?
Damn, he was like TBQ. Like he went on his Rengar, which I was kind of like, oh okay, he's bringing that up because he was practicing it on solo queue before that, and I can't check now because that website went down. Rest in peace. I love that site. But yeah, he showed, like, he just got styled on 2 dragons, like, for nothing. They got, like, 3 kills. I'm not sure. And, like, they had such a large lead until Jarvan engages with no Syndra ult, like, backup. There were, like, some major team fight flaws that they had, but it showed that team has a great strength to move forward on. And also one point of interest is LGD, like, PYL, putting down like one really smart play is what I noticed. Is PYL went into the blue side enemy jungle to ward out the camps, to find out that, hey, Captain 57 hasn't been on this side for a long time. So there was a point in which Captain 57 was on top lane, just camping out this lane. Like, when am I going to gank? When am I going to come at him? Acorn was just like playing super passively, but not passively enough to show that there was, like, he knew he was there. And so he was just sitting there. He like at one point, the moment he used Irelia ulti for the minions, that's when like 57's like, oh fuck yeah, I'm going, I'm out of here. I'm going to the mid lane, which he got like a kill. So it was like it worked out in the end for him. But that was a really smart play for Acorn. I think Acorn's probably going to be the one to stay there. I'm not sure. Like I don't know what's going to happen, obviously. But like
Haven't
really
they said that they're gonna use Acorn over Flame?
My understanding is that the team is more comfortable playing with Acorn just because they've played with him for longer. Flame only showed up to China near the end of the transfer period. Technically he was a free agent, so he was allowed to come in out of the transfer period. But because he left CJ of his own volition, whatever the logistics are. But that Flame will be played as much as possible. So, I mean, like for high pressure matches, they'll probably play Acorn.
The ones that matter. Sorry, Flame. Take a seat.
Sorry, Flame. But not because they think Acorn is better, just because they are the
They
team
just think
in
the
general.
team is better with Acorn.
Yeah.
Okay, so Acorn's better.
wow.
They'll just bring,
No, the team is better with Acorn just because they've been practicing with him more. I think it makes some sense because Wayless and Imp are both very gold hungry, in your face kind of carries. Flame,
Yeah,
obviously.
especially with the meta, changing over to be a carry top style meta. Of course they would pick Acorn over Flame. That makes perfect sense.
Well, it hasn't changed over yet. Okay.
I'm trying
I
to
expect
figure
him to be played more and more and to be given like more chances. Like obviously, I think for a while it's gonna be like this. Acorn plays the first game, Flame plays the second game. So unless they have trouble in the first game, like the first game's gonna be their gauge probably. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting when Flame, because I'm not sure what their differences are in champion pools. They both played Irelia. I understand that Acorn's a better Rumble player, but what really defines Flame? Like I know that he plays Shyvana, but I don't think that's gonna. No, that pick's not gonna come out.
Renekton's coming back.
Oh yeah, I guess he plays. Yeah, so once Renekton comes up, that'll be a thing, I guess.
Maybe Kennen will come back.
Go going the rise.
Well, Flame is a big Kennen player, so.
Go going the rise. Sorry, Flame.
Can we
picked
talk
Acorn.
about how if the top 3 teams end up being OMG, LGD, and Edward Gaming, they should just do like top laner centerfolds with going Koro and Flame.
That got
Oh.
creepy.
That's. I
But
don't
no,
want to
not
say that
Acorn,
I'd be
he's so
interested
pretty.
in, but
They're all just weirdly pretty anyway.
the going will forever be my bae. He has
Here's
that
something
jawline. That
really
jawline of a
controversial.
god. Yeah, go for it.
I don't think Flame's pretty.
Wow.
wow,
That's probably the most
It's even
controversial.
off the show.
For some reason, and I don't think Watch is very pretty either. Like Watch is like he looks like a
They're
Ken doll
about to
kind
get-
of.
Oh, you're gonna make N Prog come back.
Oh, no.
It's gonna get hacked.
Yeah.
Is this all part of the ploy? Like, is this what's happening?
Flame's haircut is just not doing it for me right now. Like every time I see one of his little, like especially the little selfies that he took with Loco Doco, which were all over Twitter, I was like, "What the fuck is up with that bowl cut? Is he aware of what he's rocking right now?" And he's got like, I always thought that Flame was supposed to be like this manly man, like very smoldering look, like I'm gonna carry from the top lane, and then like I see him with his haircut and he's like wearing his little jacket. It's like you do not look. How I
Nah.
would have expected.
Now, Frosk, I see you. I know. Like, here's the thing, because I don't think he's a manly man. I think he's just like he's kind of like he's posh. He's very.
From
Model-
going to Flame.
I understand.
Seriously, that's like huge
That's
distinction.
the
Come on, Going is the most
difference.
manly person. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
That's too broad of a comparison.
Like, I understand
Well,
Frosk is in a very aggressive. She likes that, like the manly person, like that look, that style. Like, that's probably like I agree with that too. That's why I favor
She wants wants someone who can control the lane. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the most backhanded compliment I've ever seen, and the subtlety of it is so amazing. Okay.
No, but I personally like going because I'm not saying anything. Like I like going.
What did I start? Okay, anyway, let's go. Let's go. On to the next
No, it
topic.
was excellent, Raz, because as you were saying it, you realized the implications of the statement in your face, and you were just like trying to backtrack. I was like, wow, I've never seen someone backtrack on a word so quickly.
That was great.
Hey man, all I'm saying is that going has a jawline of a god.
But you're assuming that I think going is the prettiest one, and it's Koro. Koro and Acorn are the prettiest.
So she likes Screamo boys.
Acorn has such pretty eyes, like, hello? Anyway, everyone always talks up Flame and how good looking he is, and I just look at him, I'm just like, I don't see it. I would always take Acorn over Flame.
That's true. I can see that. Whew. Man.
Flame, I don't know, man. Flame in that, like, CJ video where they had, like, the ice and fire. There you go.
Yeah.
Did he have the same haircut?
It's No, he doesn't. It's circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but haircuts matter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
Proves that haircut needs to be fired.
His pictures were less than ideal, you could say.
And they decided to give him the weirdest haircut, and then they're like, Insect, pick this sweater. This one makes you look really nice. It accentuates your hourglass frame.
Oh jeez.
I can't right now.
Oh man.
And he was just like standing there, and I was just like, "Yep, I'm terrified now. Insect's gonna come and get me."
Hitting the big topics.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I don't know. These teams were pretty nice. I loved LGD because of their play. I feel like they have probably the best.
You're
team
really
play.
trying to save this, aren't you?
He's like, backtrack. Yeah, I didn't even say my favorite
We're
match.
trying to get away from
let's
the creepy voyeur photo ranking.
We never have this. This is the one thinking we've never had.
This is true. I can't kill the only moment that we're having.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, LGD's really smart. They're probably the smartest team. Like they've always been the smartest team, but right now I still think they've somehow kept the smarts with the change.
Well, the issue is that they've always had mechanically weaker players, specifically in the jungle and in the top lane, which your jungle, you still have the same guy, but their top lane was a massive improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, LGD has been known as being a very strategic, very methodical, very rotation-oriented team, which is pretty unique to China, specifically, and PYL, of course, being, like, their big, strong captain, like, that's the big thing. And, of course, all these players are coming forward and saying, I'm on this team because of PYL. And so now they finally have the mechanics so that they don't have to kind of out-rotate people, because, like, oh god, if they catch us, they're just gonna, like, beat us. So that's really refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have the chat open, I'm assuming? Raz is making faces.
I don't know. I want to hold off, because I feel like I've talked too much. Maybe
He's
like
still thinking about going.
I want to hold back a little bit, because I felt like I've dug my own pit here.
All right.
What were we talking about? Standout games?
Yeah, standout games. Mine would still, I guess, like, it's pretty generic, but mine would be King versus EDG, just because the narrative and the play and everything like that. And also, it's just, like, really cool because these two have been finalists, like, a lot during the off-season, so it's cool to see them again, like, in an official LPL setting. And also, we got to learn a lot of things. Like, I was actually pretty impressed with how Clearlove operated with these solo laners as opposed to, like, in the past, but I do also think that he still operates on the, like, show up at a perfect time or don't show up at all setting. Like, that's kind of how it works, and it's kind of like a coin flip there. So they had a pretty good debut week. The only thing I can complain about in the set is that I really wanted to see Mouse playing a champion that wasn't Annie during that set.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see, like, how the lanes played out a little bit better. But yeah, I thought it was a good set, although I do think that King kind of shit the bed in the second game. But in the first game, it was actually a really good game. Like, that game specifically, EDG vs. King Game 1 was pretty hype, and, like, storyline-wise and just play-wise, so.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey?
Yeah, so I will go with Edward Gaming versus Vici Gaming. Yeah, I already talked a little bit about how I changed my opinion a bit on Vici Gaming based on this set. I think that Koro and Carrie was a really interesting matchup. I think it's just interesting to see Koro try to play more of this Carrie style. We did get to see Mouse not play Annie. They picked it away from him. Deft and Mouse actually did extremely well in lane, which was interesting to see. Like, they were diving towers. Deft played Ezreal. We talked about wanting to see more Ezreals.
The Korean guy.
The Korean guy. No, Deft is kind of
Ezreal.
known for his Ezreal, yeah.
I'm not saying he's not known for his Ezreal. I'm just saying, like, Ezreal is supposed to be, like, China's pick, and no one plays it.
Well, he's in China, okay? It's respect, obviously.
That's what it is. It's just respect.
For his new home.
But wouldn't
okay?
this champion be better? No, pay your dues. Pick Ezreal, goddammit.
No, and and again, watching the video on the Chinese stream, they kept panning to Aaron and home, and I was like, this is the storyline.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then
It's kinda
and
cool.
it also showed the coaches more involved in the draft section, because I think they were trying to set up that narrative visually. Like, it showed all the players were talking to Aaron and EDG, all the players were talking to home, and I want to say Samsung, Vici Gaming.
Yeah,
And-
that was really telling.
I mean, it was just
So compare
watching
that visually
those
to
fights, yeah.
compare that visually to Masters 3's coach, because that coach came out and he like stood behind his players and he was like reading off on his notebook, or he didn't really talk much. Like, it kept panning to him, but he just kind of like stood there with his book. And then, like, if all the players are turned at Aaron and listening to what Aaron says and things like that, and obviously, like, Aaron has a reputation that really precedes him. He has experience with that team, and I don't really I don't know what the Masters 3's coach reputation is. I don't even know who the Masters 3's coach is, but
It's
the fact that
accurate.
okay, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense now.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
It's Axine
Yeah.
or Sin
Wait, Axine is the coach?
of
From
M3.
M3,
Yeah.
That's my face.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. I don't know how
I
feel about
forget.
that.
He used to coach both WE and M3, but they moved him to M3.
Mhm.
Who's they?
I-
Are you suggesting there's some kind of link here?
And looks at the coach.
When they made the extremely on the books and official
Or just a second.
separation of M3 and WE, they decided to separate the support staff as well. Like, okay, one owner got M3 and associated sponsors and support staff, which were completely separated from the other two owners who used to be business partners and are now have severed all ties completely. Okay.
I
Got
thought
it.
what I said was
Got it.
controversial.
Understood.
Understood. Okay.
But what I was
Interesting.
getting at is, like, obviously these teams are paying attention to their coaches. They're turning, they're talking to them. You know, Aaron's front and center. And then you look at, like, the other teams who aren't doing so well and kind of have, like, disasters of games. And they're like, my coach is standing behind me, whatever. Let's counterpick myself mid again.
Anyway, so that was fun. But yeah, I really enjoyed that set. Again, like, the thing that really woke me up was Koro gets away with all this stuff in team fights, and it's like Dandy figured it out after only being there for a little while. Yeah, and it was a pretty interesting 2 games. Like, those were my favorite 2 games. So even with OMG playing 2 sets, I liked that.
We didn't talk about OMG at all, and I don't really want to talk about them.
I want to see. I'll just say that I really want to see more OMG versus LGD games, because I feel like LGD is more strategically sound, but both of them are pretty brute force in the way their laning phase plays out, and I'm pretty excited for that.
Do we usually get to see UCI on Sivir? That was what I was wondering, because I don't remember actually seeing.
No,
You
he
played
plays Lucian
her-
almost exclusively.
Yeah.
He played her in the spring when he switched back. He tried to initially. It was interesting to me because he pulled out the Vayne in the second game, and then always in the spring it would be Vayne in the first game. They would lose. He would pull out like Sivir or something else,
Okay.
and they would win. So in this game they pulled out Sivir first, and then against Energy Pacemaker, and then they pulled out Vayne to like kind of reward him. So here you can play it. You did well.
You're a team player.
The one thing I do want to say about OMG is that they are not really meshing as much as that I would like them to in team fights. Or I feel like they meshed a little bit better. People understood their roles with San. But I will say something interesting that they've started doing is that I always say Cool is the mom of the team and he'll play whatever role the team needs him to do. It's like he knows that UZI wants to go in, and so he will go in. He'll do the flash in. He'll drop off. He'll build his Zonias. He'll drop all of his cooldowns till Zonias, and then everyone will be tunneled onto Cool, and UZI will just slip in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been interesting to see them do, because I really like OMG's creative approach to team fighting, and I'm a little disappointing that it isn't there yet, but that's something that I want to see more of.
Yeah, and I guess it's a given on how good Cool is. Like, this is, everyone knows how good Cool is. But the fact that now that we have, like...
But do we, Raj?
Okay, no.
Really?
Yeah.
You brought up OMG, so now we're going to talk about them, because I just thought about something. So, Kelsey, you just defined OMG as being incredibly creative in their team fighting, which I don't think anyone can dispute. If you know OMG at all, you know how they use abilities. Even as an example, Jarvan Ultimate Cataclysm for them is incredibly creative in how it's used versus any other team. Starhorn Royal Club, UZI specifically, has a very one-dimensional playstyle. Like, they made this famous of raising this guy and just making that super 80 carry. So now you have like this really stagnant play versus this really dynamic play, and now you just explain kind of like the merging of how OMG is playing around this. Do you ever think that there's going to be a point where OMG will be able to do exactly what OMG used to do, but with UZI? Or is this done? Is that like chapter of OMG like faded? Will they now become this very, you know, Cool's going to go and burn all the cooldowns, or Leveling's going to go and burn all the cooldowns, and then UZI is going to come in and do his thing again?
And I think we did see some interesting dimensions. There were definitely the games where, and the comment I made, the difference between Royal Club with UZI and OMG with UZI is if UZI dies first, OMG can still win the fight. And there were times where he went in and he did like just UZI things and would get blown up, and then Cool would be playing Syndra and it would be okay, or something similar. So I think that will be trickier for them if they're against teams with better laners and they don't get so ridiculously far ahead. But yeah, that's what I'd like to see, is them against like tougher laners to see what they do when they don't have ridiculous advantages.
They did have the insurance policy of Cool Syndra, which is an interesting... It showed in the Vici Gaming set, in which Vici had a decent lead up until one point. Carry was on his Rumble, and when they were in that critical siege in the bottom lane, Cool dropped down his Syndra ulti, or at least, and he had a bunch of bulbs. He zoned
a bunch of balls.
But yeah, he zoned out the enemy carries and just like single-handedly won that team fight, I'm pretty sure. But it showed that there is not one carry on that team, like, and I guess it goes to like show obviously. But it feels like you can't just like focus down one person and expect that the team fight is going to be perfectly fine. So that's why I think OMG is definitely favored to be top 2, without a doubt.
It'll be interesting to see if like Leveling plays more supportive junglers, or if Going tries to play more supportive style to kind of accommodate for that fact now that it's UZI instead of San, or to just see if they just like roll with this like multi-carry threat that's just kind of like, oh, if you die, I'll just clean it up, and see if that's actually going to be healthy as competition grows stronger. So that'll be fun to see. I just don't think we've seen enough examples or a huge enough sample size to know for sure yet. So.
And we still did get to see the cool Leveling thing they do, where they play like much carry style, like an assassin mid laner and a carry style jungler. We had LeBlanc, Rengar, and then they just kind of sit in the enemy jungle and they starve out the camps, and then they wait to kill you. They did that too many times, and EP eventually capitalized on that, and I was like excited that EP figured it out. But we still are seeing some of the classic weird OMG specific things. And Uzi sometimes is kind of left to his own devices, so we'll see how it works out and if they can get everyone to kind of work together better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. There was a couple of more questions, but the show's kind of gone on long enough, I think. Shoutouts, closing statements, anything like that? We'll start with Raz.
All right, so I'd like to shout out Esportspedia, obviously. Like, great website for all of your competitive League of Legends needs. Yeah. Oh, I'd like to shout out in the ocean. We already did this earlier in the show, but the Oceanic casters were amazing. They did really well in their casts, and
They're the LPL casters now.
oh dang, Oceanic / LPL. Just remember that slash, because that's very important now. I guess they're really good, and they did a lot of work. Good God, I don't know if they need more people, but if they're gonna continue on just like with this casting hell of like how many sets that they're gonna have to go for, but if they do it, then God bless them. This is gonna be sweet.
I mean, it'd be great if there were more resources out there to help them with this stuff. Just, you know, like if only that was the case.
Yeah. Oh, and the return of, oh my God. Oh, I forgot his name. This is so embarrassing.
Papa Smithy?
Papa Smithy. I love Papa Smithy. And I forgot his name right when I was about to say it. So yeah, Papa Smithy. That was beautiful. Papa Smithy and Pastry Time Back. That was pretty good.
I really like Papa Smithy's style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me way back when Monte Cristo and Papa Smithy used to do some. I forgot what it used to be called, but they did some LPL reviews, and it was really interesting. I don't remember where it was taken on what stream. It was pretty old. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Kelsey?
guess. Okay. Fine.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. No, I'm
DreXx?
just kidding. No, go ahead. It's totally cool.
Wow.
I wasn't even saying anything. You guys
Okay,
just
I'm
decided.
gonna compliment Papa Smithy then. So, my co-caster Pyra made this example to me, not yet the other day, but a while ago. He was explaining kind of like the difference, or something that he had heard about the differences of like color casters. And so in this specific instances, we're gonna use Quickshot because Quickshot is flexible. He's a play-by-play and he's a color caster. And we're gonna Monte Cristo. So you have two very different styles and spectrums. And Pyra said like the differences is Quickshot, like, he makes it rain, like, with his compliments and with, like, the points that he gives, like, it's just, like, throwing $1 bills all over the place, and it's just, like, it makes you really happy and it make it rain. Whereas Monte Cristo, he, like, punches you at the right second with $100. Like, his analysis is, like, that's worth $100. And it doesn't hit you all the time, whereas Quickshot's just, like, making it rain on you. It's just, like, it's the most key, perfect way to say that, and I feel like Papa Smithy is very much like that. Like, his technique is very calm. He has good vocal like range and everything like that. And maybe not on like the high energy scale, but he's very clear. He's very concise, and he is just like Monty, where he just like slips you $100. He's like, and this is the analysis of this game right here. And here's another 100. And so I really like that of him.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kelsey.
Yeah, I will give a shout out to the Oceanic LPL casters as well. I think they've done a good job of, first of all, being very excited about the region, wanting to do the research. They've been it's been kind of confusing doing the transition, looking for feedback. Just they seem like they're really enjoying it, and that makes me happy. Like, I like that the casters are enjoying casting the LPL.
Mm-hmm.
That's always great to see, because I obviously love the LPL, and I like it when people love the LPL, and I like it when people do it justice with their commentary and their play-by-play and how excited they get when, oh, this fight is going on, and oh my gosh, look at that Gnar ultimate. Yeah, I've been enjoying the casting. I also want to give a shout out, obviously, to PLU and the huge production increases that they've done. Very cool stuff going on there. The casinos and the pinball machines, and they do interviews with coaches between games, and then after games they do interviews with players, and they do there are some segments. You can go to the website and you can find additional videos where they'll be talking to players with with a shot of the team fight up on the screen, and obviously I don't speak Mandarin Chinese, but it looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Where the player is like they're asking questions like, "What did you do in this situation?" Stuff like that. So they're just putting out a lot of content to accompany their broadcast. They're making their broadcast really interesting. They're setting up the storylines with the camera really well in terms of the player interaction, and so I really am enjoying both streams for different reasons. Yeah.
Yep, and again, I'll just give a shout out to the panelists as well as Esports Heaven, and again, just to accommodate with everybody else here, definitely whatever you have to say about the new Riot broadcast for LPL, just so you have to give credit to the casters. They're doing a great job. They have to have a lot of stamina to cast that long, so respect to those guys. They are doing it justice. We're not like bitter about it about the casters in particular or anything like that. They're doing a good job and they're doing what they can, especially considering it's the first week. You know, there's always going to be some roughness there around the edges. But yeah, otherwise, since, you know, everything's official now with the new broadcast, I'd like to give another shout out to everybody that helped make LPL EN a thing that happened. You all mostly know who you are. I'll probably save that for FF or something, so I always forget about that. I feel like a bad person. Anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much it from my end.
And yeah, just a continuation off of DreXx's thing, and I know everyone's pretty much said it, like, give support to the casters, but they did do their homework. They reached out. They watched VODs. It's not like we didn't hear from them. I know
just
that
wing it.
a couple of us. Yeah, they just got out. I've gotten to talk with a lot of those casters over there. They're really nice guys. They do care. They're trying their hardest. 12 teams. They have to learn 12 teams. So, props to them. Other things that I want to say. Oh, I'm not allowed to make the official announcement, but things are happening to China Talk, and there will be an announcement about that announcement later. So I have to say that.
That's how we work in the esports world, baby.
That's how it works. We have to have like an announcement.
Gotta keep the suspension high.
Oh yay! Okay.
Yeah. So watch for the announcement on China Talk. Something may or may not be happening to it.
And if you guys liked the showdown that we did on Friday for the opening games, we're gonna try to do more of those next week, and we'll also probably with a little bit more planning, and maybe some other content to supplement like our regularly scheduled China Talk. So.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, since we're not busy with LPL EN, we are able to branch out into other forms of content. So just be aware that more content is coming for China, since now we have all this free time. It's awesome.
There we go.
Free time.
Free time.
Kelsey's
Okay.
like, yeah,
really.
right, that's what I have.
Yeah,
Like free
that's,
Yeah.
that's what I have. Sure.
All right, is there anything else? Or are we good?
No, I think that's it. Everyone wave.
Bye, guys.